I'm James Rule. Welcome to the Lonely Leader podcast, where we help existing and aspiring leaders find clarity, build resilience, drive performance, and enhance fulfillment. Today, we're talking about leadership in the digital age, staying human in the high-tech world. Now, this, as with all my episodes, comes from feedback and themes that I'm seeing in my day-to-day coaching, training, and mentoring work. People are very much falling into two camps. Those that are embracing the fast-moving world of technology and the developments with things like AI, and those that are resisting, much more hesitant, wary, cautious. And it's not quite as simple as age-based. It's not just that the older generation of leaders are, well, I'm anti-AI, I don't trust it, and the younger generation fully embrace it. I think it's far more nuanced than that. But the fundamental premise that I've always spoken about is that there is no substitute for what defines the highest performing leaders. And that for me is the ability to connect, the ability to be present. And when you do those two things well, you create a sense of value in the people that you lead. So technology is not the enemy. Technology has a part to play, but what is essential, in my opinion, is that we do not find ourselves negligent and stepping away, almost a dereliction of duty, in how we maintain that connection, how we maintain that trust, because we'll build no empathy and we won't build any high performance environments if our people don't feel that they can trust us, they don't feel connected to us, and they don't feel that they are valued by us. So I think the challenge is to not be as binary as technology is good or technology is bad. It's to sense check, are we using technology to our advantage as a leader without compromising our ability to be present and connected to the people that we lead? That, for me, is the most fundamental question we need to be asking on a regular basis. And I think I would frame that with the sentence that technology becomes a liability when we let it lead us instead of using it to lead better. And where will that manifest? Well, often it's used as a tool, for want of a better phrase, to hide behind. So what do I mean by that? Well, when difficult conversations need to happen, whether that's with somebody in your team, somebody that's underperforming perhaps, or whether it's with a difficult client, we hide behind technology, we hide behind emails or texts. I think that's true in our personal lives as well. We've all heard the stories of people ending relationships through text rather than a face-to-face conversation. Technology gives us a cowardly route to bail out and to utilize that method of communication when we know in our heart of hearts, I should be doing this face-to-face. So as always, I like to use examples and try and frame my thinking around this. And for those of you that have worked with me or that have listened to a number of the podcasts, you'll know that my background is in professional sport. I spent time playing professional rugby union, both in the UK and over in France. And then latterly and more significantly, I spent a significant part of my career operating as a CEO of professional sporting clubs. So what that gave me was an insight into communication, something we talk about a lot, and the frequency of that communication, the candor of that communication. There was no mechanism to hide behind channels because so much of that communication between coaches and players happens on a daily basis and it happens face to face. But that's not to say technology wasn't being used. And I actually think that sporting coaches, irrespective of what discipline you're looking at, in the modern world, sporting coaches are probably a wonderful case study of best practice of how data should be embraced. So let me just break that down a bit further. When elite sports teams, men, women, are competing, individual or team pursuits in reality, their performance is often recorded. And post-event, post-match, post-competition, the coaches have a rich seam of data that they can dissect and utilize to enhance the feedback and communication they give to that athlete. They can break down and play back to the athlete, this is what you did well, this is what you didn't do well. But then the third element of that, it prompts discussion. And this is the bit that we can't lose sight of. We can have all the data and technology in the world, every dashboard, every tracking mechanism, watching and monitoring KPIs, and you could just send that out to your employees, to your team, and think, well, that's job done. Let's go back to that sporting analogy. Coaches do not simply send a file over to their athlete and say, watch this, sort it out, off you go. You can see what you did well and badly, make it happen. They bring that presence, they bring that connectivity in the one-to-one follow-up. So they use the data and the technology as a tool, but they spend the time and invest the time to sit down, often in a one-to-one format or certainly one to small groups, and bring it to life, discuss the learnings, embed the learnings, and encourage the athlete to take accountability and ownership to deploy those learnings into their next performance. So that might sound very simple. And you might say, well, what's the relevance to me? Well, the relevance to you is I want you to reflect and say, how am I using data? Am I gathering data and then staying connected with my team and using it in order to improve their learnings, their performance? Or am I guilty of building all sorts of apps, tracking systems, dashboards, monitoring systems for KPIs, and just expecting performance to happen? Now, that's a difficult question to ask because it revolves around some self-reflection, but in my experience, as technology is getting more and more advanced, we are guilty of losing sight of the power of human connection and how we follow up on that data and technology. So let's dive into some actionable takeaways. That's what this podcast is about. We stimulate reflection. We give you some takeaways. No judgment, as I always say. You'll be doing some of these things. You might be doing all of them. You might be doing none of them. The idea is to trigger some thoughts and reflection to allow you to adapt and then implement these in your day-to-day leadership style. So top of the list is define how your organization uses technology. Now, I'll bring this to life with an example. I was working with a leadership team recently that had a variety of experiences, but also quite a significant differential in age profile. So when I asked the question, when we got into the nuances of tech and communication, what everybody's favorite go-to communication platform was, we got different answers from everybody. Some people liked Teams. Some people liked Zoom. Some people liked Teams Messenger. Some people liked text. Some people preferred WhatsApp. Some people preferred email. And some liked the good old-fashioned picking up the telephone. Now, you might say, well, what's the significance? Well, the significance is in times of crises or high priority tasks and needing a quick and immediate answer, each one of those leaders would defer back to their predominant channel. They'll pick up the phone, they'd send a text, they'd drop a WhatsApp, they'd jump on Teams. Now, that's fine for them, but they need to be cognizant that the other person that they're trying to reach, maybe they prefer text in an emergency or WhatsApp, and they're not checking their email as regularly. So as simple as this may sound, we established that in an emergency, in a truly high priority situation, everybody deferred back to the telephone call. So that if you saw you had a couple of missed calls on your mobile or there'd been a couple of calls coming through onto your landline, you knew that was high priority. Now, I think that's important in every organization. How are we using the channels and what is the go-to for, I need to speak to you and it's urgent? Let's not get lost in all the various technology channels. Let's be clear that you can step away. You don't have to keep checking your Zoom, your text, your Teams, your email, your WhatsApp in case something's happening. Because you know, if something serious is happening in your senior leadership group or somebody truly needs to reach you, they're going to go through a certain channel. Now, Some of the more senior leaders here will be blessed with the services of an executive assistant, a PA, and they can be that natural filter. But for those of you that don't have that ability for someone to reach out and connect, define how you want technology to be used. Now, that takes me nicely into my second point. Make sure technology enhances productivity rather than destroys it. So for those of you that have worked with me personally or listened to previous episodes, you'll know the importance I place on carving out regular periods in your working week that allow you to be distraction free and then get into that deep concentration required to move things forward, to move those high priority tasks forward, to allow you to apply the best of your intellect and your experience to the task in hand. And one of the easiest ways to destroy that ability is to be disrupted. Every time we receive a disruption, the science says it takes circa 15 to 20 minutes to get back to that level of concentration. So humor me on that. You're trying to finish a key report, a key piece of work, and if anything pings, vibrates, or grabs your attention, it's going to take you 15 or 20 minutes to get back to where you are. Let's say you're 15 minutes in, you're just about getting back to it, and then ping, something else comes in. Now, if your alerts are coming at you multiple times a day, the difficult question to answer is, are you ever really in deep concentration, or are you just reacting all day long? So if we have WhatsApp, Zoom, Slack, Teams, text message, phone calls, email, ping, 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 yes, you could say, well, I just turn my notifications off. But actually, I think it goes a step beyond that. What are the communication channels? We don't need to utilize every single one. Yes, people can have things for their personal life, but professionally, let's streamline it. Perhaps it's WhatsApp, Teams, and email, and the good old-fashioned telephone. But we need to minimize technological disruption if we're going to allow people to get into those deep states of concentration, both you as an individual, but your wider team as well. If we don't do it, we're never going to optimize our performance. My third tip is make it face-to-face or pick up the phone. Now, this ties back into my earlier point where technology can be used as a crutch that can allow us to be a little bit cowardly and allow us to avoid those difficult conversations. You don't need me to explore this deeply. You know in your heart of hearts when you should be meeting somebody face to face. You know when what you're saying needs some nuance, it needs some delicate positioning, and face to face would work best. But I fully appreciate that's not always possible. You may have team members spread all around the country, indeed in multiple countries. So you can't be face to face with everybody. But that's where I believe picking up the phone or getting on a virtual call. Whatever you do, it can't be email, text, WhatsApp, etc. There needs to be some connectivity to how that message is delivered so that people can truly understand the nuance and can receive the message in the manner that it is being presented. And to wrap that up, we've all been on the receiving end of an email where we've not liked the context, or perhaps we've taken it out of context. It fires us up, it can disrupt our concentration, it can linger in our mind all day, or indeed until you get back to that person who sent it. Maybe that's days, maybe that's a week or two. And then you find out that you misinterpreted the tone or the context. And all that energy, all that frustration, all that irritation, a complete waste of your time and an erosion of your bandwidth. So technology used where it is difficult feedback is convenient on the one hand, but massively disruptive over the medium to longer term. It might feel easier to send that email and avoid the face-to-face or the Zoom or the phone call, but then you have to unpick the damage of the message being poorly received and the irritation and disruption to their concentration and performance you create as a consequence. Have the courage to do it face-to-face with a human touch. And on the subject of trust, that takes me into my next point. Avoid over-surveillance of remote teams. This is a hot topic. It will continue to be a hot topic. The pros and cons of hybrid work. Should people be in the office? Should people be allowed to remote work? And I fully appreciate it is nuanced. It depends on the organizational leadership. It depends on the culture. It depends on the work that you're doing. I don't profess that there is a one-size-fits-all, but I do believe there is a question that allows everybody to guide themselves forward in this hybrid world. And that is, what is the outcome we want? And what is the outcome that is being produced? So if you have an outcome, a vision, and you can define success and people are delivering that, well, surely that's the most important thing. For me, we're not in the industrial revolution. We don't need everybody to punch in and punch out of the factory at the same time. It's all about outcome. And if I can get the highest performing team into a business and that requires an element of remote working, so be it. I would rather have the highest performers on the bus than say, right, well, I've got a team that are all in the office, that are in this geographical location that can get to the office easily, but then close the door on some high performing talent. Now, that doesn't mean that there is no need for checks and balances on remote work. Of course there is, but the fundamental check and balance is, are they doing the job? Are they delivering successful outcomes? Because if they're not, just the same as if they're in the office or out of the office, there's a conversation to be had. There's an understanding to be established. Is this skill gap based? Is this knowledge gap based? Let's close that knowledge gap. Let's enhance the skills level. And if it still doesn't produce the required outcomes, then that person, unfortunately, is going to have to be moved on. They obviously don't have the ability to be a part of that organization. So it's tempting to say somebody's working remotely. I'm going to access all these different tech channels and tools to really monitor what they're doing. And I'll keep my foot on them and I'll make sure they're not taking advantage of the company. It's all about outcomes. It's all about what they deliver. So relax a little bit. You don't need as much technological surveillance. You just need to be really cognizant of, have I given them clarity on what's expected? Are they delivering what's expected? If not, why not? And if they are, it doesn't need further surveillance because they are delivering the results that you want. Now, having said that, my next point might sound like I'm contradicting myself. Let technology do the admin so that you can lead the people. Now, this isn't about surveillance. This is about being really ruthless with how you use your time as a leader and making sure you have as much of it available as possible to A, work on your highest priority tasks and move the work that you need to move forward, but B, creating that space for everything we talked about at the start of the episode to communicate with your team in groups, small groups, and individually, to build that connectivity, to enhance those relationships, to be truly present, and to build that sense of value in your people and sense of loyalty. So when I sit down one-to-one with leaders, even the highest performing leaders, and we look at their calendar and we look at the rhythm of their week, they are often getting bogged down in low-level admin tasks that can be automated or that can be better utilized with technology. So I'm not going to go into huge detail here because it's super nuanced depending on the size and scale of your organization and the sector that you're in. But I'm not talking about surveillance strategies. I'm talking about, where can technology make your life easier? What can it do for you that wasn't there in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, even the noughties? We go through and say, well, the things are evolving all the time. AI is the latest tool. Where can AI support you to take away some of that lower level administrative work so that you can maximize on what will always matter, irrespective of how advanced technology becomes: human contact and connectivity. Use it wisely and give yourself an X factor. Create more time in your working day, week, month, calendar to be truly present with the people that you lead. Now, building out from that, I would suggest that everybody audits their digital habits. I think it's a healthy thing to do, because if you're not sure, well, am I using it in the best manner that I could? Do a little audit. Look at how you use technology. Look at things that you think, actually, I could use tech to make this more streamlined, to make me more efficient. And going back to my earlier point, a little bit more challenging, granted, look at how you allow technology to disrupt you. Look at how you bounce between different technological feeds. Now, the benefit of a smartphone is obvious. The downside is also obvious. If you have got your work and personal phone combined and you have a whole range of apps that take you into media, sport, entertainment, family and friends, social connectivity, then that tech can be massively, massively disruptive. And you might have to be as ruthless as to put the phone out of reach, move it off your desk, putting it on airplane mode. Do what you need to do to remove it, because with the greatest respect, very few of us have the discipline to truly disconnect when that potential dopamine hit is within reach. Let's just check quickly. Let me just check something. We know we don't check it quickly. We get in and we allow it to disrupt us massively. So most of the people I work with will at some stage say, I feel overwhelmed. I've got so much on my to-do list. I'm struggling to get on top of things. Within that one-to-one environment, I will encourage them to look at their screen time usage, to look at that service and facility that phones have, to be able to say, where did you access? How often did you pick this phone up? How often was it truly work? And did you need to be picking it up as often? Because there are hours, sometimes in people's working day, but certainly in people's working week, that can be claimed back. And if I had that magic wand and I said to you, now I can give you at least 10 hours a week of uninterrupted, deep concentration time, how would that help your to-do list? Most of you listening would say, wow, that would be amazing. It's within reach. Do that digital audit and look at how you can improve your habits and how you can reduce the disruption of technology so that you can create that window for deep work and high performance. I want you to think about creating online rituals. Now, I use the word rituals because it has a deep sense of resonance with me, not just art meetings. I think there's something about rituals because we need to stay connected to our people. How many times have I said that in this episode? You'll be rolling your eyes, you'll be tired of it by now. But how do you do it? Easy if you're leading a small hybrid team, a small group of people. But as your team grows, as it scales, as the geography expands within your country or indeed overseas, you can't get face to face with everybody. Sometimes you've got different time zones. Sometimes you've got people with different commitments, and it's hard to be able to get people together. But you must get people together. I believe that there is a need to bring the whole team together periodically, smaller groups periodically, and you one-to-ones periodically. Now, no leader has the ability to just off the cuff wave that proverbial magic wand again and ensure everybody is available. If you try and do that, you will always get, can't make it, I've got this commitment, I've got that commitment. That's why it's worth looking at the year ahead and creating some rituals to say, on the first Monday of every month, we come together at this time. It's sacrosanct. Everything else in your diary works around it. Perhaps as a group beneath that, this team, we come together on the second Tuesday of every month. This time, it's sacrosanct. And the one-to-one cadence, this is when you and I meet, it's at this time, it's sacrosanct. If you put those large rocks in the jar and they're all in place at the start of the year, all the smaller rocks, all the sand, the granular elements of what needs to happen, it fits around it. I know that sounds so simple, and I've talked about this in various episodes on productivity, but you need to establish those touch points because we have to stay connected, but it's harder and harder to do. And you don't want your team members just sitting idly saying, I'm always free. Whenever you need me, I'm free. Of course you want them busy. So help them out. Set the cadence, put those important meetings in place, let everybody know it is a priority, and only something extreme urgency that's come in left field last minute will allow you to miss it. And then everybody buys in, everybody stays connected, and it allows us, yes, we're using technology, but it allows us to ensure that that connectivity and that interaction within your team is sacrosanct. Again, going back to the sporting arenas, they're blessed because they're all on one site, but they're using technology all the time, but they're also using face-to-face connectivity all the time. So try and blend the two, but if it's predominantly virtual, you must make sure that that schedule is set and that it's understood by everybody. This isn't an optional, you come in, you miss some, you come back to others, because then it's disrespectful to everyone else's time. It's let's find a time that works for everybody, let's set it and let's go. Now you might say, oh, that will be a nightmare. It will be in the first couple of months. So you can be more flexible and fluid in the first couple of months. But once you get to month 3, from the point of which you're listening to this, there'll be space in people's calendar. I guarantee it. And by month 4, it'll be no problem. So don't avoid setting this schedule in just because it's difficult. Embrace it. It'll be difficult for a month or 2 or maybe 3. But after that, there'll be clean space in people's calendar. You lock it in and lock it in for the foreseeable future, minimum 12 months. So the final couple of points I want you to consider. 1 is keep the cameras on. And 2, over communicate. Keep the cameras on is a point I'm not going to go too deep into on this episode, but it's something that's coming up almost on a weekly basis with clients currently. We're all using more and more tech. We all recognize the need to stay connected, and yet there is a very different use of camera technology in meetings. Some people always have them on, very present. Some people have them off. I've talked about this in previous episodes, but the fundamental principle for me is if you were in a face-to-face meeting, sitting around a meeting room table, you wouldn't turn your back on people. You wouldn't start typing a quick response to an email. You are fully present and locked in. So virtual is no different for me. If the meeting is important, and that is at the door of the leader, if you believe calling this meeting is important, then cameras on, distractions off, lock in, make it efficient, make it punchy, bring it to a conclusion as quickly as possible, but people need to be present. I don't think anyone can build human connection when they're looking at a black box on a screen. So cameras on is important. Over communication, well, it's easy to think that I've said what I need to say, that's it. But in the previous episode, and I'll put a link to this one, Leading Through Organizational Change, we talk about the need for repetition. You've got to over communicate to help allay people's fears, anxieties, uncertainties in times of change. And I always maintain that, yes, that's extremely relevant in times of change, but it's relevant at all times in reality. The old-fashioned model is everyone would be in the office with you and you'd be able to see them, look them in the eye, stop and have those impromptu conversations. So over-communication sort of happened organically. Now we have people in multiple locations. We're relying more heavily on tech. So from a leadership point of view, we have to be comfortable with over-communicating to make sure that everybody has clarity and everybody recognizes if they don't understand something, there's the psychological safety for them to raise their hand, to express their question in a virtual forum or in a follow-up as a one-to-one. So it might sound a little bit simplistic, but if you think the message has landed and you think your communication cadence is right, do a little bit more. Repeat the message one more time and review that communication cadence one more time. In reality, it's very rare that anyone would say there is too much communication. So I hope you found this episode useful. The reality, as we all know, is that technology will continue to evolve at an ever-increasing speed. That's not something to fear, it's something to embrace. But remember, irrespective of what technological advancements that we have, the best leaders are the leaders that maintain human connection. Technology serves that, but it can never replace that. And these points are designed to make you reflect, to ensure that you are embracing technology in the right way, but you are giving yourself that X factor, that competitive advantage, that you are truly maintaining human connection, that your staff feel your sense of presence, they feel valued, and as a consequence, you will be building and maintaining that high performance culture in your organization. I wish you the very best of luck with it. Thanks for listening to the Lonely Leader podcast. I'd be very grateful if you could share and follow if the content resonates. And if you're looking for additional free resource to support your continued growth and development, then please do check out our social media and website details in the show notes. Remember, quality leadership on the outside must always start within.